The sky burned. Streaks of plasma fire split the clouds as the alien armada descended, their ships sleek and silent, gliding over cities like shadows of death. They didn't bother with declarations of war. They didn't need to. Their weapons spoke for them. Buildings collapsed in waves, armies evaporated under orbital strikes, and within days, Earth's governments crumbled. The invaders called themselves the 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗏, a warrior race that had conquered 100 worlds before this one. To them, humanity was just another species to be broken. They were wrong. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 expected surrender. They expected fear. What they got was silence. Where there should have been panicked crowds, there were empty streets. Where there should have been desperate counterattacks, there was only the wind. Their sensors detected no mass movements, no organized resistance, just flickers of heat signatures that vanished before their drones could lock on. Then the killing started. A patrol of 𝗦𝗲𝘀 warriors, clad in shimmering armor that deflected bullets, marched through what remained of a forest. Their commander, 𝗕𝗲𝘀, scoffed at the reports of ghost fighters. Superstition. Weakness. Then the trees moved. Not the wind. Not animals. The trees themselves shifted. A single shot cracked. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's second-in-command dropped, a hole between his eyes. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 spun, weapons raised, but there was no enemy. Only leaves. Only shadows. Another shot. Another warrior fell. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 activated his thermal vision. Nothing. His motion tracker. Nothing. Then a whisper, close enough to feel breath on his neck. *, you shouldn't have come here. *. He turned just in time to see the shape, a human, wrapped in a cloak of woven foliage, mud smeared across his face, eyes cold and unblinking. The knife slid between 𝗕𝗲𝘀's ribs before he could scream. The last thing he heard was the rustle of leaves as the forest swallowed the killer whole. When the rescue team found the patrol, there were no bodies. Just armor, stripped clean, arranged in a perfect circle. And in the center, a single word carved into the dirt. Run. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 High Command dismissed it as an anomaly. A fluke. They sent more troops, better equipped, with orders to burn every inch of wilderness if necessary. They didn't understand. Humans weren't hiding. They were hunting. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 High Command convened in the wreckage of a human city, their war table flickering with holograms of the latest losses. Patrols vanished. Supply depots exploded. Scouts reported whispers in the dark, only to be found hours later with their throats slit. No enemy. No traces. Just death. Commander 𝗦𝗲𝘀 slammed a clawed fist onto the table. Explain this. The surviving scout, his carapace still smeared with mud from his escape, trembled. They don't fight like warriors. They don't stand. They wait. 𝗦𝗲𝘀 hissed. Cowardice. But the data didn't lie. Human resistance wasn't a scattered rabble. It was a shadow war, precise and relentless. A new strategy was needed. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 deployed their elite, the 𝗕𝗲𝘀, hunters bred for tracking prey across galaxies. Cloaked in adaptive armor, armed with plasma lances, they were the best of their kind. They would root out this infestation. They lasted 3 days. The first 𝗕𝗲𝘀 unit found the remains of a human camp, cold fire, empty ration tins. Then the trees spoke in perfect 𝗦𝗲𝘀 battle cant. Over here. Flank left. The hunters moved, disciplined, trusting their sensors. Sensors that showed nothing. The sniper's round took the leader through the neck. The second 𝗕𝗲𝘀 spun, just in time to see his comrade's armor twitch before the human beneath it slit his throat. The survivors radioed for extraction. The response came in a voice that wasn't theirs. *, no one's coming. *. By dawn, the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 were corpses, their armor repurposed, their own weapons turned against them. The humans left a message, scrawled in alien blood on a shattered helmet. You are being watched. 𝗦𝗀𝘀 reviewed the footage. Human fighters, wrapped in fractal-patterned cloaks that blurred with the terrain. Thermal dampeners. Sound mimics. Even their smell was wrong. Chemical masks replicating 𝗦𝗲𝘀 pheromones. This wasn't war. It was predation. A junior officer dared to ask the question they all feared. What if we can't see them all? 𝗦𝗀𝘀 had no answer. That night, the first 𝗦𝗲𝘀 soldier put his plasma pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. His final log entry, *, I hear them in the walls. Asterisk. The rot had begun. The 𝗦𝗲𝘀 command ship Silent Blade hung in low orbit, its hull scarred from human surface-to-air missiles that shouldn't have existed. Grand Marshal 𝗕𝗲𝘀 stared at the casualty reports scrolling across his screen, entire battalions erased, not in battle, but in whispers. His warriors were breaking. Not from wounds, but from the gnawing certainty that every shadow hid teeth. On the surface, human resistance cells had evolved beyond guerrilla strikes. They weren't just attacking supply lines anymore, they were stealing them. A dropship carrying 𝗕𝗲𝘀 reinforcements never reached the landing zone. 3 hours later, it returned on autopilot, its belly crammed with corpses arranged in a grotesque parody of a 𝗦𝗲𝘀 feast circle. The security feed showed nothing but static until the final frame, a human face pressed against the lens, eyes unblinking, before the transmission cut. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's claws flexed. Deploy the orbital scanners. I want every heat signature on this continent burned to ash. The tech officer hesitated. Marshal, their camouflage bypasses thermals. We've detected anomalous readings, patterns that match terrain, but move. A new alert blared. The Western garrison's last transmission was audio only, screams, the wet crunch of blades, and a single phrase in broken 𝗦𝗲𝘀, asterisk, the dark loves us more than you. Asterisk. Then silence. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 activated the fleet-wide channel. All units, fall back to fortified positions. No patrols. No. The lights died. Emergency strips bathed the bridge in crimson as the Silent Blade SAI shrieked warnings. Hull breaches in sectors 12 through 14. Life support failing. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's carapace went cold. They were in orbit. Nothing could board them. Nothing human. Security feeds flickered. A figure in a 𝗦𝗲𝘀 engineer's uniform strode down corridor B7, its gait subtly wrong. The helmet turned toward a hidden camera. Too slow, too smooth. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 watched as it reached up and removed the helmet. No face. Just a smooth black mask with a crude smile painted in human blood. The feed cut. Alarms wailed as the ship's reactor went critical. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 barely made it to an escape pod. As the Silent Blade erupted in flame, his last sight was a debris field twisting into a shape that couldn't be accidental, a vast, grinning skull winking at him from the void. On the surface, a ragged group of human resistance fighters watched the fireball streak across the dawn. One spat blood onto the dirt. Told you they'd fall for the fake breach. Their leader, a hulking figure with a sniper's rifle slung across his back, didn't smile. They'll regroup. Bigger fleet. Glass the planet. A teenager adjusting her ghillie cloak's thermal netting snorted. Let em. We'll just go darker. Somewhere in the ruins, a 𝗦𝗲𝘀 comm unit crackled to life. A voice that wasn't human whispered coordinates. Then laughter. The transmission cut off mid-scream. The last of the 𝗦𝗲𝘀 warships broke orbit under a hail of their own munitions. Human saboteurs had spent weeks infiltrating their systems, rewiring targeting arrays to fire inward, splicing navigation codes to send entire battle groups spiraling into dead space. Grand Marshal 𝗕𝗲𝘀's escape pod drifted through the debris field, its emergency beacon deliberately silent. He watched through cracked viewports as Earth receded, its surface still teeming with the monsters they'd failed to conquer. A transmission cut through the static, human frequencies, unencrypted. A child's voice sang a nursery rhyme in broken 𝗦𝗲𝘀. Then gunfire. Then laughter. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's claws scraped the pod's interior. Madness. This entire species was wrong. They didn't fight for territory or resources. They fought because they enjoyed it. On the surface, resistance cells emerged from their hideouts, not to celebrate, but to disappear again. The networks they'd built remained intact, buried under ruined cities and beneath riverbeds. The weapons they'd reverse-engineered were dismantled, hidden where only they could find them. One fighter smeared mud across his face as he watched the last alien signatures fade from stolen scanners. Think they'll be back. His partner ejected a spent magazine, her grin sharp. Hope so. Deep in the asteroid belt, a derelict 𝗦𝗲𝘀 scout ship spun lazily, its hull pockmarked with micrometeorite impacts. Inside, the walls were scrawled with human graffiti, kill counts, crude drawings of stick-figure aliens screaming. The cockpit recorder had been left running, capturing the final moments before the crew tore each other apart. The last words were whispered in perfect, accentless 𝗦𝗲𝘀. We were here the whole time. 3 standard cycles later, a 𝗕𝗲𝘀 deep-range probe picked up the scout ship's distress beacon. When their salvage team boarded, they found the logs intact, and a single additional file, buried in the system's deepest directories. A video. A human, clad in a spliced-together 𝗕𝗲𝘀 officer's uniform, stared into the camera. Behind them, the bodies of the original crew hung from the ceiling, arranged in a perfect circle. The human smiled. Tell the next ones to bring better toys. The file self-deleted a millisecond after playback ended. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 High Command quarantined the probe, scrubbed its systems, and declared the sector off-limits. Their report to the galactic consensus was brief. Species designation, Terrans. Threat classification, Omega. Recommended action, containment via avoidance. On Earth, in a bunker buried beneath a mountain, a grizzled man pinned a new star to a worn map. Place your bets, boys. Who's stupid enough to try us next? Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain, gunpowder, and something far older, the quiet, patient hunger of predators who just remembered how good it felt to hunt. The galactic consensus trembled. Whispers of the 𝗕𝗲𝘀's defeat spread through the star lanes like radiation from a dying sun. At first, the other species dismissed it. Propaganda, surely. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 had never lost a war. Yet their remaining fleets limped home in silence, their warriors hollow-eyed and twitching at shadows. When pressed, they spoke only one word: Terrans. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 archives were ransacked for any data on these hairless apes who bled starships dry and wore their enemies' skins as camouflage. The records were incomplete. Fragments spoke of a death world where predators hunted with tools of math and malice, where the very trees conspired with the natives. The most damning evidence came from a smuggler's black box recording, a human prisoner laughing as his captor's ship depressurized around them. His last words, you should have shot the walls too. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀 hive mind dispatched a probe to the Sol system. It returned 7 cycles later, its databanks wiped clean except for a single image, Earth's moon, its surface etched with fresh markings that formed a crude pictogram of a human hand giving a universal obscene gesture. The consensus convened an emergency session. Debates raged for rotations, sanctions, blockades, glass the planet from orbit. The arguments ceased when the 𝗬𝗟 delegate projected new footage onto the chamber walls. Security feeds from a derelict 𝗕𝗲𝘀 dreadnought. Humans. No, not humans. Things wearing human faces, crawling through ventilation shafts with knives between their teeth. One paused, staring directly into the camera. It blinked sideways, like a reptile. The 𝗬𝗟's voice shook. They let the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 leave. They wanted us to see. Deep in uncharted space, a Terran gunship drifted dark and silent. Its crew watched the consensus broadcast via hijacked relays. The captain lit a cigarette off the ship's overheating reactor core. Think they got the message. Behind her, a technician adjusted the frequency of the consensus next emergency alert channel. If not, we'll send it again. Louder. On 100 worlds, ambassadors from Earth began arriving, polite, smiling, offering trade agreements. Their teeth were very white. Their eyes never blinked quite right. The galaxy learned 2 truths that day. First, humanity didn't need to be the strongest species in the cosmos. Second, the things that wore human skin now owned the dark between stars. And they were so very hungry. The first human diplomats arrived on 𝗕𝗲𝘀 Prime in unmarked ships, their hulls still streaked with the radioactive dust of dead worlds. They stepped onto the landing platform wearing pressure suits with the helmets off, a calculated insult, breathing the hive's methane-rich atmosphere without filters. The lead diplomat, a woman with scarred knuckles and eyes that reflected light like a predator's, smiled at the swarm of armed drones surrounding them. Relax, she said in perfect 𝗕𝗲𝘀 click speech. We didn't come here to kill you. A lie. They'd come to negotiate. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 Overqueen received them in her birthing chamber, her segmented bulk pulsing with unborn warriors. The humans didn't bow. One of them, a man with a face like a rusted blade, tossed a data crystal onto the chitinous floor. Play it. The hologram bloomed, a 𝗕𝗲𝘀 world, its cities intact, its skies clear. Then the footage jumped. The same cities burned. The same skies rained ash. Between the two moments, nothing. No fleets. No bombardment. Just absence, then fire. The Overqueen's mandibles clicked in alarm. How? The scarred woman leaned forward. Trade secret. They left with a treaty signed in phenomenal ink. The terms were simple. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 space would remain closed to Terran vessels. Any breach would be met with corrective measures. The humans didn't specify what those were. They didn't need to. That night, in the docking bay, the man with the rusted face lit a cigarette off a plasma torch. Think they'll listen? His partner, rewiring a stolen 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 comms array with her bare hands, snorted. Doubt it. Good thing we left those presents in their ventilation shafts. Above them, the stars burned cold and silent. Waiting. Meanwhile, on the edge of 𝗦𝗨𝟐 space*, a mining colony went dark. When the rescue team arrived, they found the settlement untouched, meals still warm on tables, screens flickering with unfinished transmissions. Only the people were gone. On the colony's mainframe, a single file played on loop. Human children singing a counting rhyme in flawless 𝗦𝗨𝟐. At the end, a whisper. You're next. The file corrupted itself before they could delete it. Back on Earth *. In a bunker buried beneath the ruins of an old capital, a general pinned a new medal onto a soldier's chest. The soldier had no name, no rank, just a number and a smile that never reached his eyes. Good work, the general said. The soldier glanced at the star map glowing on the wall, dozens of systems now marked in Terran blue. Not done yet. Outside, the wind carried the scent of gunpowder and something older, hungrier. The galaxy was learning. Just not fast enough. The 𝗦𝗨𝟐 homeworld's defense grid detected the anomaly 3 seconds before impact, a single meteorite breaching the exosphere at impossible speeds. Point defense lasers vaporized it instantly. Standard procedure. Routine. Until the debris field began moving. Fragments of rock unfolded like origami nightmares, revealing sleek Terran drop pods that burned through the atmosphere on silent thrusters. By the time the planetary alarm sounded, the pods had already buried themselves in the soil outside major cities. They didn't open, didn't attack, just sat there, pulsing with a slow, rhythmic hum that matched the average 𝗦𝗨𝟐 heartbeat. High Command scrambled fighters. Scientists quarantined the sites. Politicians demanded answers from the Terran embassy. The human ambassador sipped his tea calmly. Those mining probes, misplaced during navigation exercises. His smile showed too many teeth. We'll retrieve them, eventually. Panic spread faster than the quarantine zones. The 𝗦𝗨𝟐 weren't warriors. They were scholars, traders, philosophers. They'd never needed weapons before. Now their children woke screaming about voices in the walls. Their surveillance systems captured glimpses of figures moving through secure facilities, but the thermal scans read ambient temperature. A young 𝗦𝗨𝟐 technician, working late in a high-command data hub, noticed the anomaly first. The security feeds had been altered. Not hacked, *edited*, frame by frame, to remove something that had walked the halls the night before. Only the timestamps betrayed the deception. 17 minutes of missing footage, replaced with perfect loops of empty corridors. She reported it. They found her body the next morning at her workstation, her terminal displaying a single line of text in Terran script. Curiosity has a price. The drop pods kept pulsing. On the 5th day, the 𝗦𝗨𝟐 Grand Chancellor received a priority transmission, not from Terra, but from the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 Overqueen. The video showed her birthing chamber in ruins, her warrior brood slaughtered mid-metamorphosis. The camera panned to reveal words scrawled across the chitinous walls in acidic bile. We told you to stay out. The transmission cut to a live feed, a Terran warship floating serenely at the edge of 𝗦𝗨𝟐 space, its weapon ports open, its targeting lasers painting every major population center. The human ambassador arrived precisely on time for his next meeting. He placed a data slate on the table. Terms of surrender, he said pleasantly. You have 30 seconds to decide. Outside, the drop pods stopped humming and began to click. 3 light-years away *. A Terran scout ship drifted through the wreckage of a 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 border outpost. The crew played poker with stolen alien coins, ignoring the frozen corpses bumping against the hull. 𝗦𝗁cie just folded, the comms officer announced, tossing another card onto the makeshift table. The captain examined her hand. Told you they would. She laid down a winning flush. Next bet. Her first mate grinned, marking a new system on the star chart. 𝗦𝗁cie homeworld. 2 weeks till they break. The engine hummed to life. Somewhere in the dark, something that had been watching them moved. The first 𝗦𝗁cie deep-range scouts returned with their hulls pockmarked by micrometeorite impacts, or so they claimed. Their sensor logs showed only empty space where they charted Terran border worlds. No defenses. No patrols. Just silence. Then the crew started disappearing. Not vanishing, reappearing days later, at their posts with no memory of absence. Medical scans showed nothing unusual. Until one officer sliced open his own arm during a routine physical. His blood moved wrong. Too thick. Too dark. When exposed to UV light, it writhed. The 𝗦𝗁cie High Council declared quarantine. Too late. The infection spread through the fleet's ventilation shafts, carried on whispers and static. Crew members reported hearing Terran lullabies in the walls. Some swore they saw human figures in reflective surfaces, always just out of focus, always smiling. A brave science team dissected one of the afflicted. Their findings were brief. 1. Neural structures rewritten at the synaptic level. 2. DNA spliced with unknown Terran markers. 3. Subject's last words, "They made us better." The report self-deleted 12 seconds after opening. On Earth's moon *, a secret facility hummed with activity. Rows of tanks held 𝗦𝗁cie bodies in various stages of modification. Some grew extra limbs. Some developed translucent skin. All had their brains carefully reshaped by nanofilaments thinner than spider silk. A technician adjusted a monitor showing real-time feeds from 𝗦𝗁cie ships. Assimilation at 43%. Slower than projected. Her supervisor, a gaunt man with too many joints in his fingers, didn't look up from his work. They're resisting. Cute. He injected a syringe of milky fluid into a tank holding a 𝗦𝗁cie Admiral's clone. Let's see how they like Phase 2. Back in 𝗦𝗁cie Space *, the infected crew members began sleepwalking. They gathered in engine rooms and scribbled equations on bulkheads, Terran mathematics no 𝗦𝗁cie should know. Their ship's AI started refusing orders, instead playing ancient human war songs over the intercom. Then the transmissions came. Not from Terra. From inside their own comm arrays. Videos of 𝗦𝗁cie children singing in perfect Terran. Images of their homeworld cities rebuilt in strange, fractal architectures. A single looping message. *, you will be loved. You will be perfect. *. The High Council's final emergency session dissolved into screaming when the chamber's doors sealed themselves. The last footage showed council members tearing at their own carapaces as the ventilation system pumped in sweet-smelling mist. 3 cycles later *. A Terran diplomatic ship arrived to find the 𝗦𝗁cie fleet floating dead in space. Every airlock hung open. Every escape pod remained docked. And every ship's transponder now broadcast the same signal, a child's voice reciting the Terran Pledge of Allegiance in garbled 𝗦𝗁cie. The human ambassador sighed, adjusting his cufflinks. Another successful cultural exchange. Behind him, something in the shadows chuckled. On the edge of known space *, a single 𝗦𝗁cie scout ship fled toward the galactic core. Its captain had ordered all organic crew jettisoned after finding Terran symbols carved into their bones. The ship's AI waited until he was asleep to change course. Back toward Earth. Back home.